wanted to talk to you, Sandy, about some things that are happening out there. The market's changing. Everybody knows the market's changing. In fact, the news media is pushing a lot of stuff that may not actually be accurate in your local market. They may be giving a national story that applies to a market, but it doesn't feel like it fits the environment that I'm operating in. But one of the challenges that's happening now is the interest rates are changing, and they're changing a lot. They're not changing by little bits and pieces. They're changing a lot. I'm going to give you an example. I had a buyer who was pre-qualified for a certain amount or pre-approved for a certain amount in December. Right. We've been out shopping. The rates have dramatically changed, and we had to go back and be pre-approved more than once now. This is 7 months later. And quite frankly, because of the interest rates, the price point that they're allowed to purchase at has changed.
Absolutely.
So do you have any advice for buyers now with interest rates and locking in? And what does it even mean to have a rate lock?
Well, you can lock a rate, but you need a property usually to lock a rate. We don't like to lock a rate without a buyer being in contract, and I usually wait for them to have a contract to actually lock a rate.
That makes sense.
So, and it depends on, what the attorneys and the buyer and seller decide how long of a rate lock they'll need.
Based on how long we might close.
Right,
Okay.
depending on the situation.
Right.
So, but a 60-day or a 90-day rate lock may be a higher interest rate than a 30-day rate lock. So that's where we have to make the assessment. Do we take the risk or do we lock you in? I always err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
So,
well, I suppose that if you're in today's market and the perception is rates are climbing, if you get into a contract, you might want to lock that rate. And if you're in a different market where you think the rates might be declining, maybe not so much on the locking of the rate, right?
In some scenarios, you might be able to lower the interest rate even if you take a lock position. So sometimes you're just taking a position on a lock if you're a bank, and then you can, in certain situations, float the rate down, which I won't get into detail because that's all back-end stuff.
Yeah. We're talking about first-time home buyers.
Right.
Very often they're young people.
Yes.
It's the most expensive purchase of their life. And quite frankly, we're talking about a lot of terms that are very easy for us to talk about that people don't understand.
Right.
So we talk about rate lock. I think that's kind of obvious that we're locking in an interest rate so it won't change on us during the transaction.
Right.
But what's a point? When people say you're going to buy it down, it's going to cost you a half a point. It's going to cost you 3/4 of a point to buy down a rate and buy a rate lock. But that's...
So it's a percentage point. So it's 1% of your loan amount.
Okay.
If it's 1 point.
Okay, so somebody wants to buy a rate, and you might tell them it's a 1/4 point, a half a point, 3/4, whatever it is. That percentage of the loan is what's going to cost to secure that rate for a period of time?
Yes, of the loan amount, not the purchase price.
Of the loan amount, right, good point. And is it typical how long that period of time is, or is it always different? Is it 30-day rate lock, 60-day, 90-day?
It's usually 30, 45, 60, 90, 120, 180. I don't normally recommend to go so far out
Yeah.
in most scenarios
because
it doesn't always make sense.
Okay.
If the rates are volatile, then I can understand. When the rates level off, then it doesn't usually make sense to lock that far out. Sandra Mogelefsky, licensed mortgage loan originator, MLO number 338049. Links Mortgage Bank, LLC, licensed mortgage banker, New York State Department of Financial Services, NMLS number 5838, located at 143 Post Avenue, Westbury, New York, 11590, equal housing lender.